Coming up next on The Mikey Martin Show.
Okay, I am in Zermatt, Switzerland, that's where the Matterhorn is.
If you're looking to get into real estate, if you're looking to make money and build an empire, today's episode is for you.
It's over, and I might take weeks to get back into a productive mindset, and I don't ever want to do that. So then you're able to take your life to the next level and actually live your dreams. I always make sure that my fitness is a priority. Second one, I always make sure I do at least one hike a week. Doesn't even have to be a long hike. The most stressful time of my life and the least I was actually like subscribing to any sort of recovery. I got home, I just looked at my bed and said, I can't do this anymore.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Mikey Martin Show. I am so excited to have our guest on today. I mean, I know I say that a lot, guys, but guys, this one's rich.
Dude,
guys,
Mikey, we love the enthusiasm though. You just got to keep it bringing
guys, if
on.
you're looking to get into real estate, if you're looking to make money and build an empire, today's episode is for you. Today we have Eric Peterson on. He started in tech. That was kind of his launch pad into real estate, but right now he's building a real estate empire. I talked to him just a couple months ago and he was like, "Oh, I have like 8 doors." And I was like, "Wow, like that's a lot." And then I talked to him just the other day and he's like, "Oh, I'm over 30." And he's up to 33 doors right now. I asked him what his goal is for the year. He said he'll have at least 20 million in real estate, and that's his conservative goal. So guys, today we're going to be talking about real estate and how you can accomplish your dreams through the recovery. Eric, welcome to the show.
Mikey, it's always great to be here. Your freaking energy always drives the room.
Well, and guys,
thanks for being you.
We need to start with this. Eric, where are you right now?
Okay, I am in Zermatt, Switzerland, that's where the Matterhorn is, and I'm here spending a week skiing just for the heck of it.
Guys, he's been, if any of you already knew Eric and you've been following his social media, he's been all over. He's been going, I mean, he's in Italy, he's in Croatia, he's all over the place, and he's taking this huge vacation. I think he said he's got some time to do the podcast, but then he's off to dinner with his Italian chef or something. So if you want to be living the good life, you're going to want to follow Eric at the end of this. Obviously, we'll have all his links below. But guys, Eric is the coolest guy. He loves staying connected to people and events and whatever's the new thing going on. He loves getting that new information rush. That's something I love about him. I'm going to give him just a second to introduce himself. Eric, who are you? What's your name, your brand, your mission? What are you all about?
Okay, you know me as Eric Peterson. That's how it goes. Honestly, this brand that I'm building for myself is the real estate guru and the guy who can teach you how to get to the position you want to be in order to get like all your money matters handled in a very like good way, like receiving the cash flow that people want. So then you're able to take your life to the next level and actually live your dreams. And that's not only to real estate, obviously, that's my avenue, but I want people to be able to understand this is how you do it. Building cash flow, building a business, doing something that allows you to like have that financial security and stability in your life so that you're able to just be able to live what your actual dreams are and build from there and make the world a better place for yourself, your family, and others.
Dude, I'm getting emotional here. That is so cool. Guys, if real estate is something that you want to get into, or maybe something that you've been scared to get into, Eric's the guy to show you the path. The thing that I love about having him on the show at this particular time is that a lot of you want to get into real estate, but you don't know how. And Eric is at a point where he's just cracked the code. And it's not anything special, anything new that he's doing. He's just doing proven practices. But he's at a point where he's not just getting a couple of houses, he's getting generational wealth building assets that
Exactly.
He's building an empire out of, and it's life changing. And we're not about just talking about life on this podcast. We're about changing lives. So he's at the perfect spot to get to know him right now.
Yeah, 100%. And even Mikey, even if people don't want to get into real estate, like there are principles in what I've done in real estate that you can apply to so many other investments too, that are like totally collaborate across the board. So even if you don't want to get into real estate, just hearing what I do or what I am learning or how to do it will help you in all the other investment opportunities out there as well. Like
Guys, it's true.
an amazing life.
Principles, they go across all industries.
Exactly.
So and also, guys, we'll probably get Eric over on Master Cash, where he can talk a lot more about real estate and how to actually get into it and build wealth, and how you can partner with him, you can work with him. He's starting his own investment fund. We'll get into it a lot probably over there.
Mm-hmm.
But today we'll stick to recovery, because honestly,
Definitely.
recovery's played a big role in all of our success. And so I want to get into recovery with Eric. Eric, what kind of recovery do you do? What's specific to you? What's your form of recovery? And more specifically, what's the focus or the tone of how you actually do it?
Yeah, for sure. I have noticed I can easily just put my head to the grind and just keep it down for like days, even weeks, focusing on one goal, because that's my personality. But if I don't make time for some sort of recovery, after like I put grind for a little bit, it's over. And I might take weeks to get back into a productive mindset. And I don't ever want to do that. So what I've done is I have purposely scheduled a few things in my life that force me to like get out of that goal chasing mindset and force me to taking care of myself and enjoying nature and doing hobbies that I love that actually do refresh my mind. And I think that just like two examples that come to mind is I always make sure that my fitness is a priority. Like I work out every day and I watch what I eat and I make sure I'm like actually physically active, because that clears my mind, that allows my brain and my body to stay in tuned, which gives me much more stamina. And then the second one, I always make sure I do at least one hike a week. Doesn't even have to be a long hike, but I'm out in nature. I am basically communing with who we are as people, with our soul and nature, and just allowing that to just take away all the distractions in life and helping me to rebalance myself. Because every time I do that, I notice I get back home, and whether I'm focused on a project or I'm still trying to do relaxation, my mind is way more clear and my body is way more energized and I'm ready to just get going again. So those two things are just a short part of what I make sure I always do.
Sure. Well, and tell me, because the thing is, we're a lot of people aren't into fitness, and they haven't really seen the benefit behind it kind of yet. Were you always into fitness? What got you into fitness, and why do you stay?
I would say I've always been active in some sense. I'm an antsy person just by nature. Like anyone who knows me, they'll notice like I can talk fast. I have a lot of energy and I just am always doing something. So ever since I was a kid, I just noticed in order to like feel more balanced, I've always just naturally been trying to do something, whether it's a sport or out exploring nature or communicating with people, stuff like that. But I didn't really get into fitness until probably actually like my last few years of college. Like I always thought I was going to lift, and then you know how it is, right? You schedule, you're going to lift. 3 weeks later, you're like, I'm still eating a pizza and I haven't gone to the gym yet.
It's college. You're surviving.
It's true. And then I'm sure one day I had a crush on a fitness girl and she was like, you got to go to the gym. And I've been hooked ever since. Classic. But really, it was in college I started finding out what I liked when it came to physical fitness and pursued that. And for some people, it's not going to be lifting. For some people, it's going to be sports. For some people, it's going to be just going on awesome walks or Pilates or whatever. There's a million options, and everybody has something they like. They just need to figure out what it is, so it doesn't feel like a chore.
I love it. Well, and tell me about the hikes, because a lot of people go on hikes. I love hikes, but you're really consistent and you make it a priority. And I think that speaks to, that you've seen it actually work in your life. What is it about hiking that helps you recover?
I think it's from a high level. I'll get into the hiking in a second, but from the high level, I just think anything that you have naturally prescribed to, like you notice your soul is attracted to, where you can consistently do it and it doesn't feel like a chore. I think that is something that helps clear your mind and is important for someone to pursue. For me, that particular thing that helps me clear my mind and help me like reconnect to whatever you want to call like the great universe or God or whatever is nature and hiking. So
nice.
If I just make sure like there's a day in the week I can get out for at least an hour and do a hike. And I notice if I schedule it and make sure it happens, that week is way better than any other week. And it's like, again, man, it's just all about that reconnecting, because
Sure.
it's easy to get lost into the weeds. But if you find a way to stay above that for just a little bit, it clears everything, clears your mind, and clears all of that fog that can mentally build to help you find that light towards your goal that you're always aiming
Well,
for.
and I read a lot of Robin Sharma. I just bought his new book, The Everyday Hero Manifesto, but he is so big about taking long periods of time to get out into nature and to get away from work, and how that's where you can kind of connect with your true genius. Do you find
Yeah,
that you get a lot of progress on your goals or your thoughts when you do spend more time in nature?
completely, 100%. There's something interesting about the mind and the chemistry of it. Uh, it's been noted in studies, and I'm no neuroscience. This is scientist. This is what I've read.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, like when people have a problem and they focus exclusively on that problem, your brain starts shutting down to that particular subject. It doesn't like want to focus on it anymore. But if you just set it aside and you go away for hours on end, your subconscious is still working on that particular issue. And I've noticed, for me in particular, that has happened many times. Like I'll just be sitting there thinking like, oh my gosh, how am I going to close on these 4 houses? I don't have enough money. I don't have the right partner, da 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 da, right? And then I'm just like, you know what? I can't worry about this right now. Shut it down, go do other things, go for a hike, for example. And then
Sure.
the next day I'll wake up and boom, my brain's like, hey, I have the solution. This is the right person to talk to, or this is the right creative financing, etc. And it always gets accomplished. I shouldn't say always, it gets accomplished.
Sure. No, I
Yeah,
think it's true. I think going into places where you almost recovery for me, I think, is going and doing an activity where you're almost incapable of thinking about the work. And I think
completely.
that between that and especially giving it some time, I mean, I just finished that book, Why We Sleep, and it talks about kind of same thing during your REM sleep, how
Yeah,
your brain will make these super distant connections that you would never connect because they're just not closely related.
yeah,
But I think same thing, getting into a relaxing state, getting into nature where you're like, I can't do work right now. You end up finding those solutions. And frankly, it's funny because so many people, high performing individuals, will find that when they schedule that recovery every week, that's usually actually when they make their most progress.
yeah.
It's so counterintuitive, and so many, especially when we're younger and we want to just do that grind and
Go,
hustle
go, go.
till you drop, and then you got to recover for a month. But it's like, rather than doing that, scheduling in that recovery actually helps you get farther ahead. And
Yeah,
people don't realize that taking breaks and even going to a party, or getting out in nature, whatever it is for you, like making that time helps you.
it completely does. I remember a mentor of mine specifically describing time blocking. And I know time blocking is really popular now, which is good. Um, this mentor, mid 20s, was describing how, you have these to do lists and there's so much to do. The problem is, if it's just some scattered list, you're going to totally stress yourself out because you're just going to be constantly thinking, oh, how do I do this? How do I do it? And like it's all over the place. But once you start time blocking, like you were just suggesting, and like actually scheduling time for what you need to do and recovery and things like that, it almost gives your mind a mental reprieve and helps
Yeah.
it to understand, like, oh gosh, I can focus on that later. Um,
Well, and frankly, for me, it helps me work harder in the moment, because
yeah,
if I know I've only got 30 minutes before my hike to do this task, I'm way more focused because I know I'm serious about my time blocks. Soon as it hits
yeah,
that time, I'm done.
exactly. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Time blocking is a great hack. Everyone, time block.
Guys, so two great things so far. I mean, Eric talked about he's very serious about his fitness, which I know he is. I mean, as he's been traveling through Europe, he's finding new gyms every
Yeah,
city he's in so that he can still get in his workout because he makes it a priority. And then more than that,
exactly.
look at him. He's out in nature 24/7 right now. He's up in, I mean, Switzerland, just, having the time of his life. So
Skiing
let
in
me
the
ask you,
Alps. Go.
Eric, do you have any stories of where, and specific stories maybe, where you didn't recover for a long time and then you had to put extra emphasis on recovery, because you hadn't been recovering?
Oh my gosh, yes. Last job before my last job. Quick background: I graduated from school in information. I worked at a company called Domo for 4 years, and then I worked at Adobe, and now I'm doing my real estate thing. Domo, in between, like finishing up at Domo and transferring and changing my career, was probably the most stressful time of my life and the least I was actually like subscribing to any sort of recovery. And honestly, that might have been before I started doing what we've been talking about. I had just finished a Mondo project for my boss. And at the same time, after I finished that, I still had a ton of day job that I hadn't kept up on. Like I was keeping track of all these connectors, and connectors at Adomo were basically other companies integrating their software with ours. And I was basically a project manager. I was making sure everything was moving and getting to the right people, and no one was stressed out. There was 20 of them. I was handling 20 of these. Did I sit down and try and prioritize which ones I should work on and like communicate later, like what will just come later? No, I tried to do everything at once, and it was insane. And what ended up happening is no matter how much I thought I could be creative and I could be fancy and get all these 20 projects done, I did not do it. I burned myself out, like trying to meet other people's expectations, trying to make everybody happy, kind of letting my people pleasing out that is naturally inclined in me, that I've worked on a lot, but like it comes out, you know, in the most stressful times. And I remember explicitly the moment when I got done with work at 8 o'clock in the afternoon. I got home, I just looked at my bed and said, I can't do this anymore. Crashed, woke up the next day and had no idea what I was going to do, what I was supposed to do, couldn't remember anything I was working on. And it was like that for a month. I didn't get any work done for a month. I pretended, yeah, it was nuts. It was all because I wasn't prioritizing anything, and I was trying to do everything. And I wasn't like trying to figure out how to like keep my mental fortitude. And honestly, that was a wake up moment after I realized, you know what, I need to leave this job and I need to change things. I quit. I gave myself like 2 weeks of just doing what I love, which was hiking, traveling Southern Utah, meeting up with friends. And I had the ultimate clarity after that. That's when I was like, I could never put myself in that position again, because
your traveling and everything was kind of the thing that helped you recover and come back from that.
It was, but I didn't realize it. I naturally was inclined. I'm naturally inclined to travel when I'm either stressed or I need a change. I didn't notice that as like what I'm drawn to until my late 20s, maybe 27, 28. But speaking from a high level again, I think that's how most people can figure out what the recovery is. What are you naturally drawn to when you're trying to avoid something? When you're quote unquote procrastinating, when you are not wanting to do your test, or you're not wanting to write your essay, what are you naturally inclined to do besides social media? That's different. But forget that. Throw that out.
Well, and I think you can tell if it's real recovery versus fake recovery if you come back feeling like you're ready to get back to work, or if you want to just keep avoiding it and creating more distance between you and the problem.
Yeah, I think that's actually, dude, that's really smart. Good work
on
that
one. Just no, it came from because the whole idea for this podcast came because my brother was saying, he's like, you know, I played so many phone like games on my phone this semester, and I was like, what do you mean? He was, you know, just saying like, I play one game because I feel like I need a break, but then, you know, I'll play the whole next day. And I'm like, well, dude, that's fake recovery. It's false.
Yeah, it's true.
Like real recovery leaves you feeling ready to get back to work. Like, so
absolutely.
I think for me, that's a good way to test.
Yeah, completely. So in summary, from my great story that I love yeah, like for me, I need to get away for a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's either going to be travel or doing really fun hobbies that take a few days. Like you'll see me like there's at least 2 weekends a month I'm in Southern Utah or Northern Utah or Idaho or Arizona or something, doing something outside, because it just changes my whole game.
You were saying this might have been around the time that you started getting into fitness too.
Yep.
I think that sometimes your body, your mind, your emotions, your spirit, whichever one's been most effective, like they know that they need recovery. And
Yeah.
we know most of the time, but we push our limits. But the thing is, I think, because I usually ask people, I'm like, when do you think that you actually discovered recovery? Because I think often, like you said, you went to go travel, even though you didn't know that was a big form of recovery for you, because it was what you wanted to do. And it's how
Yeah.
you wanted to naturally recover. But I think that a lot of us don't actually discover that that's us, our body or whatever, our spirit, trying to get some recovery in, kind of without us even knowing. Like a lot of people get into the gym that way. They go, oh, I just started working out. And you're like, no. Like your body knew that it needed to level out its emotions, that it needed to
Oh
sweat
yeah.
and like breathe more. And so your body, kind of gave you those signals that it wanted to,
Yeah, completely.
it naturally
Yeah,
knows how to push you there.
exactly. This ties very well in to a lot of mind work that exists out there. Like I know mind work is totally popular now, and that's awesome. I think everyone needs to get into it. There's a lot of mind work out there that is very much in line to what you were just talking about, where if you start noticing things you're naturally inclined to, like for me, it was fitness, traveling, and stuff like that. If you notice your proclivity to do certain things, that's a moment to sit down and actually like think through, well, why do I do that? What emotions do I feel when I do that? Like, what does this do for me? And write it down, really reflect on it. Because once you do that, you discover who you are and you discover who you naturally are. And then that can help you to decide, how can I use this to my advantage and my betterment, and then the betterment of others, because it just makes you a better individual. So like, definitely ride into those natural inclinations and figure out why you want to do it,
I
because
love
it
that.
changes everything.
Well, and it means the recovery is a self-discovery process. It's something that you need to find out for you.
Exactly. Like
I love that.
someone, I mean, you can go read every CEO's recovery process out there, period, and it might give you some ideas. Not saying that's not a good idea, but if you don't figure out a way to take what they do and then find out what your own personal one is, like you just said, Mikey, then what good is learning all that knowledge? Like,
Absolutely.
it's just what a bunch of people, really successful people do. But if scuba diving 5 times a day, like some famous CEO I'm sure does, isn't good enough for you, then you're not going to feel your recovery. You're just going to feel stress.
I love that.
Yeah.
5 times a day. Okay. So it sounds like, you kind of discovered your two main focuses, your two main recovery methods when you got in a really stressful situation.
Yes.
Kind of after college. So it wasn't really a younger thing that you discovered, probably later in life.
Yeah. And it's not like I wasn't doing recovery before. I just think it was very much what you were
less
highlighting earlier. Yeah, it was just my body just wanted to do that, and I'll go do it. And it's kind of funny. The more I think about it, there were times I fought that too, because I thought, no, I have to grind, I have to work, I have to do this, which is probably the worst thing that we find from hustle culture in this this world. Not that the hustle isn't good, but hustle.
No,
culture,
I think we all love the hustle, but we love it too much.
Exactly. And hustle culture like pushes this idea that you just work. And sometimes that creates that toxic side of not following your natural inclinations to stop and recover.
Totally. Well, and I'm curious because most people that I talk to that are successful have figured out some sort of meditation or a mindfulness practice, whether it's visualizing or, actually doing the breathing, or kind of like, they have different methods. Do you have some sort of meditation or mindfulness that you practice?
Yeah, I've highlighted a little bit on it already, like that kind of work I do to figure out why I'm naturally inclined to do certain things. I try and do that once a day. So I put this all into my morning routine. Every morning after I've like already done like my gym stuff, and like I'm religious, so I do like scripture study and stuff like that. I personally make sure I have at minimum a 10-minute block to do what I call personal discovery time. What I do there is, with my, like, again, being religious, I sit down and commune with God. I pray and like communicate with him. And in that moment, I also say, God, I want to open up my mind to understanding more about myself. This is a question I've had, or these emotions I felt. Help me to understand why. And then that's when I go into almost a meditation. Like in the prayer, I'll go into a meditation where I'll do breathing exercises that I've read about. I will clear my mind, and I will just let myself understand, like, and let myself ponder why I feel this way, or how this is happening, etc. And in that prayer, meditation, whatever you want to call it, I will have a journal and I will write down impressions. And I just let it build. I don't try to force it to go anywhere. And then when I'm done, I look through it and I go, like, this was really good. There was more to work on here. And I might take more time to expand on that. But, it's just a good way to figure out my own mind and to commune with my source, my God, and understand, like, who am I and why do I do certain things and how can I grow from it?
How long have you been doing that for now?
It's been in bits and pieces. I've always thrown in prayer. I've done prayer forever. Throwing in the meditation with prayer, probably a year and a half.
Nice.
I had a really great coach who taught me how to, like, she didn't teach me how to do that per se, but she did teach me about breathing exercises and mental clarity and, like, understanding who you are, for partially to recover from trauma that we all have growing up, and also just to figure out who I am. And I incorporated it and just thought, you know what, this is how I want to make myself better. And it's been awesome. I loved it.
So you went and you actually kind of sought out some sort of meditation or whatever to deal with inner trauma that you're still fixing.
Yeah. So, I mean, everyone has trauma.
Everyone.
And trauma isn't always the right word. Some people think trauma literally means, like, the worst thing ever. Like, we're used to physical trauma.
Your family was murdered and
yeah. And maybe trauma isn't the right word for everybody, but everybody has a past, even if you had a great childhood where, like, your parents didn't raise you perfectly, kids made fun of you, you felt inadequate. All of that adds up in your brain and has created situations where your brain has created habits and thought patterns that have protected you in the past that don't help us today. So like, all of that, I just noticed there were things in my life that were preventing me, and I wanted to understand why. So I found a coach that was really awesome, who helped me to, like, work through that stuff and taught me some of these techniques that I now incorporate in my morning routine to continually help me to become my more true self, instead of just someone who's been programmed by what has happened to me.
Guys, I think it's just such a huge point, because, again, if you guys listen to this podcast, you're probably somewhat into self-help, self-development. And the thing is, you've probably realized that we're all a little messed up.
Yeah, completely.
I mean, when you're a kid, like, you interpret things so differently because you just don't know what's going on. And it's like, I think that trauma kind of gets stuck in your brain, and it really does shape the way that you see the world.
Yeah.
And so, guys, be smart, like Eric. Go find a coach. Go find someone who can help you to figure out ways to kind of have a breakthrough, to kind of get through that. And I think that it's life-changing to learn how to but deal with and kind of put an end to that old trauma. I'm just to do a quick break off. One of the meditations that I know for that is that it's called done. And all you do is you take in a breath, and then you let the breath go. And at the end of the breath, you either think or say out loud the word done. Because, and you could use the word end or finish or whatever. I think some people like to use end. But the thing is, it helps your brain recognize that there is an end to an event, just like there's an end to that breath. Like, that breath is over. It's never coming back. And that event that you dealt with that's traumatic, it had an end. But so often, because our brain is programmed to actually protect us from hurt or any kind of discomfort, it's going to keep replaying that traumatic event, whether you like it or not, because it wants to protect you from feeling those emotions or being in that situation again. And so it's a great thing that it wants to help, but we'd rather live without the trauma. So just breathing in, breathing out, and saying end, helping your brain learn that everything has an end and that thing is finished and done. I don't think that necessarily helps you go in and do the deep work to actually massage out and fix the scar tissue, but it does help you kind of learn to live a life where things finish and you move on to a new you every day. New life, first day of life perspective. So
Mikey, I was just going to say, you just explained a really good stress relieving tool. It might not
everything
what you just said, is a very good tool for stress relief. So maybe someone's super anxious in the moment, they can take what you just said and realize, you know what, maybe I can't fix this right now, but I can end it and stop it and change your emotions and make a note to go back and address it later. I think that's an awesome tool.
And the fact that you can change your emotions, like, guys, if anything can help you change your emotions, you should, I mean, besides like drugs, like you should probably jump on it. I mean, recognize that if you can control how you feel, you're unstoppable now.
Oh, completely. Unstoppable.
Like, if nobody can really mess with your inner peace, like, you're always going to feel at least good to go, whether it's easy or not. But it's like, you control how you feel. And that's, if meditation can do that, you should obviously try and get some type of meditation.
Yeah. There's a great book related to this. Like you had mentioned, go get a coach, go find like a therapist if you need it, etc. There is a difference, by the way, between coaching and therapy. Coaching can help you if you're relatively healthy. If you are unhealthy mentally, you should get a therapist who's clinically like a clinical professional. I just want to make sure there is a distinction. Don't try to solve.
Don't use family. Like, they're just as messed up as you are.
Yeah.
Use someone who knows what they're doing.
Exactly. And I just want to make sure there's that clear distinction, because if someone's coaching you as into therapy, that's wrong. You need a real therapist in certain regards. That being said, some people don't want to necessarily spend money yet on getting coaches and stuff like that. Totally get it. Cheap solution. One book I love that describes a lot that I do is called You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero. I don't know if you've read it or heard of it, but she does a really good job just describing what we've been talking about for like the past 10 minutes or something about mind work and deep work and all these things. So definitely check that out.
Do it, guys. Guys, it's so worth it. So anyway, let's move on. I want to know, because I have this theory that I'm working on that I think that preparation really leads to leading less recovery. And so I want to kind of get the best preparation practices from, the most successful individuals to find out, what do you do so that you need to do less recovery? So what kind of preparation do you do, Eric, that helps you?
We've already alluded to this a little bit. A lot of it is making sure, gosh, how deep do I go here? I'm going to try and keep it as high level as possible.
Okay, awesome.
Planning is everything. Like, you need to do the time blocking like we talked about. You need to have a good morning routine, a good evening routine, and you need to have goals that you're constantly tracking. So for me personally, what I do is every quarter, I have my long-term goals, right? Nice. Every quarter I create steps towards those long-term goals that are less nebulous, that are actually things like, by the end of a certain amount of time, I want to be like this and have a certain metric. Let's just pretend like working out, for example. Like, I want to be able to hit a 225-pound bench press in 2 years. Well, that means this quarter I need to make sure I focus on bench 3 times a week. And then deeper than that, every night I plan out, like, I review my goals, and then I track where I'm at. And then I make sure for the next day I time block what I'm going to do to like accomplish these tasks that lead to my plans and goals. And then every morning, that's when I do that morning routine to make sure I'm hitting those. So that's one part. Like, that's a lot of calendars. That's a lot of tracking. That's a lot of making sure my vision is still going in the right direction. Number 2, when it comes to preparation, I just make sure that I'm always practicing what I want to do. If I have a good schedule where I'm working out, like, I make sure I'm working out, I am getting those hikes in, I am time blocking all the things I want to do. If I keep those in alignment and I'm doing them as consistently as possible, I honestly don't get burned out, because I am forcing myself to work enough to be efficient, but not so much that I'm getting burned out. And I'm also force is the wrong word. I am time blocking rest in that allows my mind to recover. And by following this routine, it gets easier. Like, all this sounds like it's super complicated, super hard, but once you develop the habit of these plans and execution, like, it becomes such a habit, and it becomes so easy to just do it, that I don't really feel like I have to sit down and think to myself, I have to recover. It just naturally is happening.
Where did you learn about how to actually form habits? Because sometimes people have a hard time with that.
Yeah. I think another book that comes to mind. I took a lot from this book called Sovereignty. I forgot the author. Sovereignty. I think it's Michael. No, give me a second. I'm going to find the
You're
author.
good.
Sovereignty book. Okay. This book called Sovereignty. It's all about keeping yourself like honed in on your skills and what you want to do. It's by Ryan Mishler, and he has what he calls the battle plan. And the battle plan literally in his book outlines like how you want to do this, your planning, how you want to do your execution, how you do your morning and evening routine, and how do you, like, when you get off base, which we always do, how do you get back on? So I follow his formula and I've modified it to my own needs, but I think that's a great book for that. It goes into other things too about masculinity and being sovereign, but if you just want it for the battle plan, that's great too.
Nice. Well, guys, and I hope you're noticing this underlying theme that Eric, he takes everything and he morphs it into his own personalized best version of it.
Yeah.
I mean, whether it's the habits, whether it's the calendaring, whether it's the recovery, you can see that he keeps checking out what do other people do, how do they do it, and then how do I do it? And that's a huge indicator of a keeper, like a successful performing individual. They know how to actually look at stuff, try it out, and then personalize it. And I think you end up finding these guys that girls do, but it's like they have these crazy morning routines that are like, why do you do that little thing? And what you don't get is that little thing has so much meaning to how they actually do that morning thing, because it's from something else that they've learned, that they found value in, that they actually use. And it's, anyway, so if you find little things that people do and you're like, why do they do that? Like, maybe ask them. I don't know.
Yeah. I think I love how you brought up that it's just like, I'm taking what I found that work and then modifying it, working it for me. I think that's everything. Like, you got to figure out what works for you. Until you discover what works for you and who you are as an individual, you're never going to be your own person. You're never going to be sovereign, because you're going to basically be a carbon copy of what everyone else does. And so I know that's like nuanced and that's a fine line, but I think that's critical to understand who you are and what works for you. And then like basically get rid of all the other noise that might exist that isn't actually you, because that is actually what's going to drive you.
When Eric talks about discovering who you are, I think it's a two-part mission. And I want to get Eric's thoughts on this. One is look at who you currently are and look at who you want to be. And if you can actually, I mean, because to be honest, like who you are, technically kind of a fluid thing. I mean, people change. I mean, most of the time, not a ton. But like I've seen guys who, the thing is, you as a person might not change that much. But if you make your bed in the morning, like that doesn't make you a different person. It just means that you're bringing out different strengths that you have, you know, to actually be more disciplined, schedule better, you know, do all these things that Eric's talking about. So recognize that learning who you are. I mean, Eric, I'd like to know how you think that people should go about maybe finding out who they are.
Yeah.
And kind of what's worked for you.
Yeah, for sure. I don't mean like who you are in the sense of like, oh my gosh, this is just let's see, how do I go down this vein? I like what you were saying.
Well, we're talking about recovery. It's like, you know, you got to figure out who you are so that you know how to work with you.
Exactly. So we live in a world now that talks a lot about discover who you are, and some of it's great, some of it's crap. I want to focus on like what actually works. To figure out who you are, that doesn't mean like, oh my gosh, like who is the most perfect person I want to be? Because your ideal self might not necessarily be who you actually are. This is called Jung stuff. I don't want to get deep into the philosophy, but who you really are is like what your personality is that can't really be changed, and what you're predisposed to. Not objects. I'm talking about characteristics and what like you like and stuff like that. So, and deprogramming, again, we've already talked about this, deprogramming what has been basically put on you, and instead figuring out like what your natural self is. So like to actually figure out who you are, I think a lot of that is some of the mental work we've talked about, deprogramming, figuring out like what actually connects to you and what sticks and stuff like that. And like, this is a deep and hard subject. Like, this isn't easy.
It's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. But if you can actually sit down and like realize what emotions are really yours and what thoughts are really yours, and do all that mind work and meditation and stuff like that, you will slowly discover who you are. And this is a pursuit, of a lifetime pursuit. You're not going to sit down for 2 months and know who you are. You'll understand better who you are, but like, you're going to be doing this your whole life. It's a discipline. And so I think it's just more about understanding, like, I need to develop habits to understand why I do things and why I feel certain ways. And that'll help you discover that.
Well, and guys, if you're young and you're listening to this, I think most of our audience is in their 20s.
Yeah.
Like, if you haven't discovered yet who you are, like, make that a priority. Because once you figure out who you are, like, for me, I feel like I did not actually know who I was until I was about 23. I went and I took a strengths test for a company I was working for. And one of my second interview was with the strengths coach. And he sat me down and he was like, "You're born to persuade and influence people." And I was like, it was just like this aha moment. And it was so dumb because I literally gave the answers to the computer to tell me who I am. But the thing is, it helped me clarify what I already knew about myself. And it's like learning that and then being able to not just know it, but then apply it and try to use my strengths and recognize that your strengths have different contributions. They have different needs. You know, that there's different, like, you can see overuse triggers and things like that. And it's like just getting to know who you are and what you're naturally adept to and kind of what your natural attributes are. Like, they help you really not know exactly what you have to do, but they help you know how you're going to do it. And so learning that stuff can be a really big key indicator in learning who you are and how you're going to recover and how you can bring your own individual gifts to the world.
Yeah, I love that. You're reminding me so much of this guy, Connor Beaton. Are you familiar with Connor Beaton from Man Talks, the podcast? Or
I don't know. Tell me about it.
Okay. So Connor Beaton talks a lot about this stuff, about overcoming your shadow, discovering who you are, stuff like that. I'm trying to find his exact quote. I can't find it, so I'm going to end up butchering it. But check out Connor Beaton on Instagram if you want to, like, if all of this sounds really cool. He talks a lot about like accepting, facing the rejection out there, which basically just means getting into the yellow zone of the comfort target. You know, you got like the green zone, yellow zone, red zone.
Good stress.
Exactly. Like, he's all about facing rejection because that's who you're actually going to discover who you are. So, I mean, that's one tool you can do, right? Like, you're young, you don't know exactly who you are. Well, then go do some hard stuff.
Yeah.
That are mentally difficult, physically difficult, outside of your comfort zone. And you'll start seeing, like, I mean, by facing that rejection, because the rejection is the potential to fail. If you go out there and you do quote unquote fail, in more like pivot rather than fail, you're going to learn who you are. You're going to learn so much about yourself. I think doing is going to make you learn more about yourself than any sort of like mind work. The mind work's important, but you got to act on that mind work and face rejection, or else everything in your head's just theory.
Guys,
right?
This is the hugest point. If you go read the book, The Attributes, which is exactly what we're talking about, it's who are you underneath everything? Like, how do you even learn your skills? But the thing is, he talks about how they tested it on like Navy SEALs, because the thing is, the way that you actually figure out your attributes is you get in a high stress environment or you go do hard things. And when you go do the hard things, that's when you actually realize, oh, this is how I naturally do it. This is my natural attributes. So when Eric says go do hard stuff, that is the key. Naturally, you're going to fail. You're going to get rejected. And that's why all these super successful people, no matter what field they're in, they've done hard things and they've failed 1,000 times. So learning how to fail, fast, fail forward, whatever, that's a skill of the successful.
Mikey, you hit the nail on the head with what you just said. It's like getting out there and doing the hard things. Oh, shoot. I forgot the vein I was going to go on that. It was totally related.
No, I was talking about you find your attributes, the Navy SEALs, you in the tough moment, the lots of pressure, you're going to get rejected.
Yeah. Oh, it's totally gone. Oh, okay. This is what separates a lot of people. like there are a lot of people who want to strive to do great things, but they still are pretty mediocre. You can just tell. And I'm not going to like list names and stuff like that. I think a lot of people see these people, and maybe we even see it in ourselves. The people who are actually successful are the ones who've gotten past the very idea of should I go do something. They have reached a point where it's a habit to just do something. And the most successful people I know, it's not even a question. If it comes to mind, like, oh, I need to do something, they just do it. And so I think that's
Not a
a
question.
really great skill to develop and do things like you said. Because eventually, if you do enough hard things, eventually you're just going to do them because your body and mind are naturally inclined to do it. Because you've gotten past
a doer.
quote unquote point of mediocrity.
You've realized that it's action that actually changes things. It's not just thinking about it, not dreaming about it. It's doing it.
Exactly.
I love that. Eric, okay, man, this has been anyway. Guys, this has been already the coolest podcast ever. I mean, we've gotten really deep on, how to become who you are, how to recognize who you are. And again, we're going to have to get Eric on Mastercast to talk more about real estate because I know that's a huge topic for all of you guys. I have 2 more questions for Eric before we end up here.
Go for it.
One is, Eric, I want to know, everybody's always learning kind of a big lesson in their life. And I think that those lessons are always really just a truth principle. Is there anything that's just a big lesson you're learning right now that you could share with us?
I'm learning right now. This is partially why I'm traveling so much. Like I'm in Europe for a month, and then I have several more trips planned for the rest of the year. I'm learning that your life is how you make it. It doesn't matter what anybody else wants in your life or what they're pushing or what their expectations of what a good life is. That doesn't matter. For me, I'm finally living like the life I want to live, doing the things I want to do unshamefully. And that includes in my career, how I work with people, how I interact with people, and how I live my life. And because of that, I feel so much more empowered, and I feel like I can do so much more. Like it's a confidence builder. So I just want people to realize that what you want to do and how you want to do it is all up to you. And yes, there are great people in your life that can help you kind of like hit the idea against the wall and put some pressure on it. But in the end, it's your choice.
Right.
And like your parents can't tell you how to live your life. Your best friends can't tell you how to live their life. Like even your spouse can't tell you how to live your life. They are important key figures. I don't want anyone to think I'm saying don't have good key people in your life that you hit ideas against. But like if you're relying on them to live your life, it's not yours and it's not fun. And you're not going to feel fulfilled. But if you can live according to what you believe is right for you, you're just going to feel so much more fulfilled and so much more happy. So
guys,
that's
this is the goal, get to the point where you're actually being true to yourself, living the life that you want to live, because you've only got one life. And this is not, it's not a dress rehearsal. Like this is opening night and you have no time to waste. So get on it. And anyway, thanks, Eric. The other big thing I kind of want to go over, which it might be similar, might be the same. I want to know, well, and actually I have another question because we got a couple good book recommendations out of you. Were there any others that you wanted to throw out?
I know 2
you
more.
always are reading so many amazing books.
I wish I could knock out 10 in like 2 weeks like you, but that's a different story.
I'm getting better.
Okay, I've already listed a few of these. Breathe by James Nestor. He actually talks about like the actual ability of using breath to mentally and physically heal yourself. How much of it I believe, I don't know yet. I'm currently in the book, but I love the techniques and how it helps you to be a better individual, and to just do mind work and physical work and all that good jazz. And then finally, this is more for men. I don't want to go down this vein too much because this is not the exact audience, but men these days, not all men, but a lot of men are not living up to their full potential and their privilege as men. I think a book that has changed my life and can change everyone's life is called No More Mr. Nice Guy. And that book is by Dr. Robert Glover. And the whole point of it is to help men to realize, guys, your life isn't centered around what other people think. It's very related to what I just talked about. And so I think any man who is a people pleaser or feels like they have no control over their life or they're not receiving respect in their life should read that book and put into practice what it says. It's not to build you into an asshole. It's to develop you into a sovereign individual who stands up for himself and is also a protector.
Awesome. So I love that. Okay, last question. Thank you for those.
Yes.
Last question is, if everybody in the world was going to see this, what's your message that you would want to say to the world?
Man, I feel like that this just summarizes everything we've been talking about. The message I want everyone to realize is, as I've already said, live your life the way you want to live it, make it happen. And on top of that, don't live a life that escapes responsibility. It's really tempting, especially in our day and age, with so much crap happening across the world, to want to escape. But that's not going to make the world better. Live your own life, but live it in a responsible manner. Figure out what responsibilities you are attuned to and what you want to participate in, and then vigorously live that life to those responsibilities. For me, that means being a father. I'm not married yet, but one day I want to be like an amazing father. And I also want to change people's lives when it comes to clean water. Like, I want to put my life and responsibility into those two things. There's more, but those are on top of mind right now. Figure out what those are for you. Maybe that's like climate change. Maybe that's like helping your neighbors. Maybe that's being a politician in your local city to fight corruption. Doesn't matter. Figure out what responsibilities you want and include them in your life that will help you feel fulfilled. Because what is the point of living a life if it's only about joy? I mean, not joy, just fruitless pleasure, which is important. It's good to do that stuff. But if you're just doing that, you're not going to build anything for yourself. And you're probably going to look back and realize you wasted it. So that's my message.
I love it. Eric, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Guys, if you want to learn more about Eric, and especially if you want to learn more about real estate, go check out especially his Instagram. He has dreambig.realestate. I follow it. Everyone's following it. It's his new channel where he's teaching you about real estate. If there's any offers for teaching, investing, or partnerships, that's where you're going to find it. Follow up with Eric. We're going to have him back on the show again. Like I said, we'll try and get him on Mastercast, see if we can talk about some more real estate. Eric, thank you for such deep and wonderful thoughts and for taking time while you're on your trip.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for letting me just brag a little bit about my travels. And I really, outside of the joke there, Mikey, I've really appreciated just your good thought out questions and just your energy and even the knowledge you bring to the discussion. Like,
thanks.
Yeah, all your freaking guests bring good knowledge, but you're super knowledgeable too. And you're bringing a great piece to your own podcast, obviously. So thank you for putting it together.
Nice. Okay. Thanks, man. Guys, thank you. And we'll see you on the next episode.